This video was brought to you by Brilliant. Today, European stocks reach record highs as inflation falls. Ukraine loses its first F-16 fighter jet, and Donald Trump tries to reframe his position on abortion. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Friday the 30th of August, 2024. On Friday morning, European stocks reached record highs as the latest Eurozone inflation data suggests that EU economies may be recovering from years of geopolitical turbulence. The European-wide Stoxx 600 was up 0.35% to 526.55 at 9:15 this morning, overtaking its peak in May. Paris's CAC 40 also stayed flat, while Frankfurt's Citra DAX fell 0.1% and London's FTSE 100 rose 0.3%. And that's all likely because, on Friday, official data showed Eurozone inflation has fallen to a 3-year low in August. It also comes a day after the latest CPI data in Germany and Spain also revealed lower than expected inflation rates, with inflation in Germany easing to 2% in August, lower than 2.3% forecast and July's reading of 2.6%, and Spain's inflation coming in at 2.4% for August, also lower than expected and down from 2.9% in July. This is all good news for investors, who will also be waiting eagerly to see whether the European Central Bank decides to cut interest rates again in September. The ECB's global head of macroeconomics said that the cooling inflation and slowing economy make the perfect macro backdrop to lower rates, which could boost the economy by making borrowing cheaper for consumers and businesses. It's also a sign that European economies may be turning a corner after strong increases in energy, food, and goods prices. But while goods inflation has now fallen back to its pre-pandemic average, services inflation isn't dead yet. Services inflation is still more than twice as high as the average between 1999 and 2019, and has accounted for an average of 70% of headline inflation since the start of the year. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing next week. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Johan Gamble-Putty of Ohm, then consider joining the new TLDR membership program for just $1.99. Ukraine has announced that on Monday, one of its F-16 fighter jets crashed, killing the pilot during a mission to shoot down Russian missiles and drones, in one of the largest aerial attacks mounted by Moscow since the start of the war. Now, according to the statement, the F-16s were approaching a target when contact with one of the aircraft was lost, with the report going on to say that as it turned out later, the plane crashed and the pilot died. One person briefed on the F-16 crash said that it appeared the aircraft was not downed by enemy fire. And this is the first reported destruction of an F-16 in Ukraine, and comes just weeks after Kyiv began taking delivery of the planes from the US. At least 6 of the aircraft are believed to have been delivered out of the promised 80. Kyiv's statement did not name the pilot, but a unit of Ukraine's Air Force said separately that the pilot was one of its top fighter pilots. Lieutenant Colonel Oletsky Mess had been killed in a crash during combat at the same time as the Russian attack. Mess had traveled to the US as part of Ukraine's 2-year efforts to convince the US and NATO allies to send F-16s and train Ukrainian pilots to fly them. And the loss of the F-16 does mark a significant setback for Kyiv. Now, let's move over to the US, where presidential candidate Donald Trump indicated that he will vote in favor of abortion rights in his home state of Florida, in the latest bid by the Republican presidential nominee to somewhat moderate his position on reproductive rights. In an interview with NBC yesterday, Trump suggested that he would support a ballot measure that would scrap Florida's ban on abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy, with Trump saying 6 weeks is too short. Trump also said that he would require the government or insurance companies to cover all costs for IVF if elected to a second term as president in November, and said that he would allow new parents to deduct major newborn expenses from their taxes if re-elected. Although Trump didn't elaborate as to how he would fund these plans. Now, opinion polls suggest that Trump has lost support among women since Kamala Harris replaced President Joe Biden as the Democratic contender. However, while Trump's effort to present a more moderate image on reproductive issues could boost his appeal in some quarters, it does risk alienating religious and anti-abortion voters, who make up a significant portion of the Republican base. As such, Trump's campaign tried to clarify things, saying in a statement that the former president has not yet said how he will vote on the ballot initiative in Florida, and that he simply reiterated that he believes 6 weeks is too short. Next, Germany is gearing up for 2 key state elections on Sunday, in the eastern states of Thuringia and Saxony, where the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD, is hoping to score its first ever state-level victory. The AfD's strong anti-immigration position remains core to its platform, but the party has also opposed Germany's support for Ukraine and sanctions imposed on Russia, while also opposing green policies. Debates over asylum, integration, and deportation only intensified in the week ahead of the election, after a knife attack in the city of Solingen killed 3 people, with the suspect described as a failed asylum seeker from Syria. In Thuringia, for example, the AfD is polling in a strong first place, nearly 10 points ahead of the conservative CDU in second. The Left Party, which leads the state's incumbent coalition, has also seen its polling largely collapse, in part due to the growth of a new party, the Sarah Wagenknecht Alliance, founded by the left's former co-leader, and which holds left-wing economic positions but is socially conservative. Meanwhile, the 3 parties of the centre-left federal government are struggling to even meet the 5% threshold needed for seats. Meanwhile, in Saxony, the AfD and CDU are battling out for first place in the polls, with the BSW in a distant third and the country's 3 coalition parties also struggling to hit 5%. Eastern Germany, i.e. the states that were formerly part of East Germany, have proven to be fertile ground for the AfD in the past, and the party's chapters in Thuringia and Saxony are considered to be even more radical than the National Party, with the country's intelligence agency having designated the 2 chapters as right-wing extremists. Even if the AfD win in Saxony and Thuringia, the firewall built by the mainstream parties around the AfD mean that it's unlikely to actually enter either state government. But it could mean that other parties are forced to form some sort of politically awkward coalitions as a result. And finally, in some uplifting news, Egypt has recovered 3 smuggled ancient artifacts discovered in the Netherlands, including a mummified head, a ceramic funerary figurine, and part of a wooden tomb, all thousands of years old. Now, Egyptian authorities say the artifacts were likely illegally excavated and smuggled out of the country, though they didn't say when. 2 of the items were found on sale in an antique shop, and the mummified head was handed over to authorities by a Dutchman who had inherited it from his family. And this is all part of Egypt's push to stop the trafficking of stolen antiquities, and they've seen more than 30,000 artifacts recovered since 2014. Understanding these sorts of issues is really important, but also difficult, and that's why TLDR is here to help you. Unfortunately though, the world's only getting more complex, especially when it comes to things like tech and AI, and I'm not qualified to teach you about that. But luckily, Brilliant are. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI. In fact, Brilliant is a learning platform designed to be uniquely effective. Their first principles approach helps you to build understanding from the ground up. Each lesson is filled with hands-on problem solving that lets you play with concepts, a method proven to be 6 times more effective than watching lecture videos. For instance, if you did want to learn more about the increasingly important world of tech, then you might want to check out their How Technology Works courses. They run you through everything from how computer memory works, to how exactly a GPS can pinpoint your location, or why some online videos buffer, and how compression enables modern streaming. And although I did throw myself under the bus earlier, and I'm not qualified to teach you about that, I do have a computer science degree, and I can tell you that these courses aren't just high quality, they're also far more interesting than the lectures I sat through. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, or click the link in the description. That way you'll get 20% off an annual premium subscription, and they'll know you came from us.